The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as Liam Ross sat in the corner booth of the quaint little restaurant. It was a place he'd stumbled upon by accident, a small, unassuming spot tucked away in a quiet street. He had everything: wealth, power, influence. But what he didn't have was peace. The stillness he longed for always seemed just out of reach until that day.
She's beautiful.
He noticed her the moment she walked up to his table, her hazel eyes tired but still kind, her movements graceful despite the obvious weight of the world on her shoulders. She was the waitress, a woman in her early 30s perhaps, with dark, flowing hair tied up in a loose ponytail, a subtle sadness shadowing her expression.
Your coffee, sir. Can I get you anything else?
No, this is perfect, thank you.
Her name was Lily. She had an air of quiet strength about her, and as she walked away, Liam found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't felt in years. There was something about her, something that stirred something deep inside him, something he had long buried. Over the next few weeks, Liam found excuses to return to the restaurant. At first, it was the coffee, the food, the atmosphere, but in truth, it was her. He watched her move between tables with an effortless grace, her smile polite but never reaching her eyes. And every time their eyes met, there was a flicker, a spark that neither could ignore. One evening, as the restaurant began to empty, Liam stayed behind.
Lily, right?
She looked up, surprised. She'd never told him her name, but there was no harm in that. She nodded, her expression curious.
Yes. And you're Liam, right? You come here often.
There was a moment of silence between them, a quiet understanding. He was older, well-dressed, clearly wealthy, and yet there was something vulnerable about him, something that made her pause.
So, what brings you here so often?
Honestly, you.
Lily's heart skipped a beat, and she felt a blush rise to her cheeks. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, especially not from someone like him, someone who looked like he had everything. They began talking more with each visit, their conversations starting out simple, but soon turning deeper. Liam learned about her late husband, a soldier who had passed away in the line of duty, leaving her alone to raise their young daughter. She was battling grief and struggling to make ends meet, working long hours just to keep her head above water. And Liam, despite his wealth, understood loss all too well. His wife had passed away in a car accident years ago, leaving him with an empty mansion and a life filled with things, but devoid of meaning. Their shared sorrows bonded them, and soon the attraction became undeniable.
I don't know why I'm telling you all this.
Because I'm listening. And I want to know everything about you, Lily.
Her heart fluttered at his words, the sincerity in his voice. It had been so long since someone had cared, truly cared. And with Liam, it felt different, safe. As the days passed, their conversations grew more frequent, and the bond between them deepened. One quiet evening, after the restaurant had closed and the world outside seemed to slow down, they found themselves sitting together, lingering over their shared connection. But tonight was different. Lily's walls started to crumble.
It's been so hard, Liam. After losing him, I've been lost. Every day feels like I'm trying to survive, but I'm not really living.
Liam looked at her, his heart aching for her. He wasn't good with tears. They made him uncomfortable, and he found himself fumbling for words, unsure of what to say. But he knew she needed to let it out.
I'm sorry. I don't really know what to say.
Lily's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, she let her guard down completely. She wiped at her face, embarrassed.
God, I didn't mean to dump all this on you. It's been so lonely. I try to be strong for my daughter, but some days I just don't know if I can keep going.
Liam shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His instinct was to say something to lighten the mood, to make her smile again. He wasn't used to dealing with this kind of raw emotion, but he couldn't stand seeing her in pain.
Well, you know, I'm really terrible at comforting people, but I do know one thing. You're stronger than you think.
Lily looked up at him through her tears, a hint of surprise on her face. Liam's sincerity caught her off guard. He wasn't trying to fix her or offer hollow platitudes. He was just being real. and somehow that made her feel a little lighter.
Thank you. I guess I needed to hear that.
Liam shifted again, relieved to see her smile, even if it was faint. He wasn't good with heavy emotions, but he could see he appreciated his effort. And in that moment, he realized just how much he wanted to be there for her, even if he didn't have all the answers.
You know, after my wife died, it was hard for me too. Not in the same way, but I lost a part of myself. And it didn't help that people, especially women, kept throwing themselves at me. They saw me as the rich, grieving man who needed someone by his side.
Lily looked at him with a newfound understanding, her heart softening. She could see the weight he carried, the loneliness behind his wealth. He wasn't the typical billionaire she had imagined. He was just human.
That must have been tough. It's hard when people only see what they want to.
Liam nodded, his gaze meeting hers. There was a moment of silence between them, and in that stillness, something shifted. They were no longer two people sharing stories of grief. They were two souls who had found each other in the midst of their pain. That night, the restaurant was quiet, and the tension between them was palpable. The unspoken desire had been building for weeks, and now it hung in the air between them, thick and electric.
Lily, there's something I need to tell you.
He stood close to her now, too close, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. She looked up at him, her heart pounding in her chest.
What is it?
She asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
I've been thinking about buying this place. But it's not just the restaurant. It's you. I can't stop thinking about you.
Lily's breath hitched. She hadn't expected him to be so direct, so vulnerable. But deep down, she had felt it too. That pull, that connection that had been growing between them with every passing day. But just as quickly as the spark ignited, doubt clouded her mind. She took a step back, her eyes narrowing.
So, that's it? You buy up restaurants and women too?
Her voice was sharp now, edged with the pain of disbelief.
You're just a cold businessman, aren't you? Flirting, making me feel special when it's probably nothing real to you.
His jaw clenched, a flicker of hurt flashing in his eyes.
Lily, that's not fair.
Isn't it?
She shot back, her emotions spilling over.
You waltz in here with your charm. And now what? I'm just another item on your list? Another conquest?
No.
He said, his voice firm but with an edge of desperation.
When I first came here, yes, it was about the restaurant. But the moment I saw you, everything changed.
You don't mean that.
I do.
He insisted, stepping closer again, refusing to let her distance herself.
You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, Lily. I wasn't supposed to come back. I wasn't supposed to care. But I couldn't stop myself. I kept returning, not for the restaurant, but for you.
Lily's defenses began to crumble as his words sank in, raw and unguarded. Her heart raced, conflicting emotions swirling inside her.
Then why didn't you say anything before?
She whispered, her voice cracking.
Why wait until now?
Because I was scared. Scared that you'd see me as nothing but a businessman. Scared that you wouldn't believe that I could feel something real. But I do, Lily.
His voice softened, his hand reaching out to gently cup her cheek.
I've fallen for you, and I don't want to lose you.
Tears welled in her eyes, the weight of his confession breaking through her walls.
I thought you were just playing with me.
I'm not.
He murmured, his thumb brushing away a tear.
Lily, listen to me.
His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it held an intensity that made her pulse quicken.
I've built empires, closed deals worth fortunes, but none of that matters anymore. Not without you. The moment I walked into this place, everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I wanted, shifted. It was you, Lily. It's always been you. The restaurant, the business, they were just distractions, things to fill the emptiness. But you...
His hand cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her lips.
You are the only thing that's ever felt real. I don't want to own buildings or run companies. I want you. Just you. Every day, for the rest of my life. Just you.
A heavy silence hung between them, the tension shifting into something deeper, more intimate. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as they gently traced the line of his jaw.
I was scared.
She admitted softly, her eyes searching his.
Scared that you were too good to be true. That I was just another moment in your life, one you'd forget. But now, I see it in your eyes. Feel it in the way you hold me. I've been waiting for something real for so long, and I think, no, I know. It's you. You're the only one I've ever wanted to believe in.
Her voice broke slightly, but she smiled through the tears in her eyes.
So, if you're asking for my trust, you have it. My heart. It's already yours.
And just like that, the walls between them crumbled. In that moment, the world outside disappeared. It was just them. The intensity of their longing was too much to bear. And before she could say another word, Liam's hands were on her waist, pulling her closer. Their lips met in a fierce, passionate kiss. All the emotions they had been holding back pouring out in that one electrifying moment. Liam's hands roamed up her back, pulling her against him as their kiss deepened. Lily responded with equal fervor, her fingers tangling in his hair as she melted into him. There was no space between them now, no hesitation, just pure, unfiltered desire.
I haven't felt like this in so long.
Lily whispered, her voice trembling as she met his gaze. The vulnerability in her eyes was unmistakable, her heart finally laying bare after all the walls she had built. He stepped closer, his fingers gently threading through hers, pulling her into the warmth of his presence.
Neither have I,
he murmured, his voice low, filled with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine.
I've spent my life chasing after things that never truly mattered. But this, you're different. You make me feel things I didn't think were possible anymore.
Lily's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding in her chest. Their gazes locked, the weight of his words sinking into her heart as the last of her doubts melted away.
I don't want to be afraid anymore.
She whispered, her voice barely audible.
I want to believe this. Believe us.
His lips curved into a soft smile as he leaned in, his forehead resting against hers.
Then believe it, Lily. Because this is real. I'm here for you, and I'm not letting go.
Their lips met again, more urgently this time, as if they were trying to make up for all the time they had lost. Liam's hand slid under her apron, his fingers brushing her skin, sending shivers down her spine. Every touch, every kiss, was filled with a longing they couldn't deny any longer. The world outside faded away, and all that mattered was the heat between them, the passion that had been simmering just below the surface, finally igniting into a blaze. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a soft glow on their intertwined bodies. They had spent the night together, wrapped in each other's arms, their hearts finally at peace after so much turmoil. Lily stirred, her head resting on Liam's chest, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his skin. She hadn't felt this alive in years, and as she looked up at him, she knew this was more than just a fleeting moment. This was the start of something real, something lasting.
Is this real?
Liam smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face.
As real as it gets.
And in that quiet moment, as they lay together in the soft morning light, they knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. Because sometimes love sneaks up on you when you least expect it. And when it does, it's everything you've ever needed.
All You Need Is. A podcast where the heart finds its voice through enchanting romance stories. Join me as we explore the timeless power of love, weaving together tales that spark joy, nostalgia, unspoken desires, a warmth that makes your heart flutter, and the sweet magic of love that transcends time. From the first blush of infatuation to the comfort of lasting connections. Prepare to be swept off your feet as we delve into the intricacies of relationships. Celebrate love in all its forms, and remind you that, at the end of the day, all you need is a Spotify-exclusive podcast conceptualized and created by Nazar Partiwala using 11 Labs.
Tune in and let your heart be your guide.